Right, well today we're at Bolton Diggers Community Food Growing Hub in Great Lever in Bolton, and we're with Alan from Bolton Diggers. Hi Al, you okay?
Hiya.
And the reason for today's little film is just want to ask a few questions about food growing. So what's your involvement with community food growing in Bolton, Alan?
I've been involved in community food growing for a number of years now. My friends and myself first got involved in food projects in the early 90s. We had a network of food cooperatives based on local council estates, and we used to buy fruits and vegetables at bulk price and then bag them up and make savings. From this, in the mid-90s, we got involved in food growing, and we set up quite a number of community food gardens, and we organised them on the same basis as we had done with the food cooperatives, where we'd have local co-ops or groups in different areas, and then we'd come together in a network. So it's a bottom-up arrangement, and from our latest sort of incarnation, which we're trying out at the minute, is on the community gardens we're setting up what we call food hubs. So we're making the gardens into places where you can grow food, cook food, preserve food, and also learn about food. So they're educational places as well, where we have demonstration plots and anybody can come along for free and learn about food.
Brilliant. So are they all sort of autonomous and then all come together collectively for...
Yes, all the projects are all self-managed, so people come together because on a voluntary basis and network together and support each other, peer-to-peer support, and also apply for funding as well.
Brilliant. And how do you see community food growing in the current economic climate, particularly? Do you think it's a beneficial thing?
It's very important, especially for working class communities, for people to have cooking and growing skills, because these are very quickly being lost at the minute. Bolton actually has quite a tradition of food growing, going back many years, and to give you a couple of examples of that, in West Horton, when a lot of the mines were closed down in the early 1930s and the miners were thrown out of work, they set up their own food growing projects all around the West Horton area, and this really fed, when Dig for Victory came for the Second World War, that these skills really fed into that.
Right.
So there's also been a big market gardening tradition in Bolton, which has been lost. If you look at old maps, you'll see, it'll say greenhouses in different areas. So Bolton was quite self-sufficient in food in the past, but it's still there. There's still, even though there's been a lot of cutbacks, there's still 1,000 allotments, loads of community gardens. One of the unsung sort of aspects of food growing at the minute is all the food projects that are in schools, which have been set up by whoever's there, the caretakers or the teachers, whoever's interested in the food, in getting the kids interested in food. I think food growing is very important at the minute, especially with climate change, because as you're seeing, one example is locally. If you go on Bolton Market, you'll see that we do actually produce a lot of food in the region. And one of the main food growing areas is north of Preston. But with climate change and the what's going to happen in that area, a lot of the fields are actually at sea level or below sea level, and as the sea starts to rise over the next 50 years, it's reckoned we're going to lose about 10% of that growing area. So urban growing is going to become even more important, especially in places like Bolton.
Quite sobering stuff, that, folks. I hope you're listening to this. And this is kind of a follow-on question, really, from the last one, Al. How do you see the future of urban food growing and urban horticulture? Do you think there is a future for it?
There's a great future, and it's going to be based all over Britain. The last few years, there's been a big grassroots movement, a very community-led and bottom-up movement of community food growing. It has got its limits, but as climate change kicks in, as people become poorer, the price of food goes higher. The one thing that's going to make it work is need, and then the economic need's going to be there, and we're not going to be able to get cheap food from the supermarkets, and we're going to have to go and learn to grow it ourselves.
And do you think there's any room for people perhaps setting up small scale businesses or trade in this produce? How do you think that will pan out?
Well, if you look at Cuba as one of the best examples of urban food growing. In 1992, at the collapse of the Soviet Union, most of the land, most of the farms were, I think 75% were run by the state. Now they've had to turn over to organic agriculture and community-based agriculture. Most of the produce, most fruit and vegetables in Cuba are actually produced by small-scale operations, and most of these are cooperatives. Are actually, who are actually running the projects. So there is a practical example there. It's the same. The Dig for Victory campaign in the Second World War. The need was there, and people just started to do it themselves because they had no choice. And it's going to be the same in this country. We have to, and that's why it's especially important with the schools to get young people learning these skills. And this is why we want to have with these new community food hubs. First one's in Great Lever, but we're going to try and and over the summer set others up in Halliwell and Dean. We want to get people relearning the skills which they've lost, especially in terms of food growing.
I hope you can all hear this, folks. This is all valuable stuff, and for anybody who's interested in in Alan's work and the work of Bolton Diggers, check out the Bolton Diggers Facebook group, and we'll be doing regular YouTube videos from this. We're just going to pan around to this amazing site. This is the Diggers Community Food Growing Hub.